Now that we have our database configured in the project, we should create a table that will hold all of the products. So inside our product API, let's right click, add a folder. We'll call this as models, and in there we will add our product model. So we will add a class here and we'll call this as product. Here what will be all of the columns that we want in a product table. For each one of them we have to create a property. So we'll write prop and press tab twice because that is a snippet. First one will be an integer which will be an ID. We will call this a product ID. Now with Entity Framework you can use the key data annotation that will explicitly define that this is a primary key. But since this ends with ID and product ID, EF is smart and it will automatically make this a primary key even if you do not have this data annotation. The next column that we want is name of the product. So we'll say string name. We will mark this as a required property that will make sure that in database this is not a nullable field. Next we need price. So we'll say double price, and we can add a range attribute here which will say that price must be between 1 and let's say $1,000. Next we want the description of the product, so we'll add a string description, and then if you want you can create a separate table for maintaining the category and add foreign key relation, but I'll keep it simple because the focus of this course is on microservices. So I'll just add a string of category name and prop string image URL. Now you might be wondering that where are we holding all of the images? We will do that in the Azure Blob Storage. So this looks good. Now how do we add this product table inside our database? Right now if we go to our SQL Server, if we explore the databases, the new database has not been created. If we go back and if we examine the connection string, we have the database name as Mango Product API, and that is not present here. So how do we add that and configure our new table? In order to add the product table, we have to configure that inside the application DB context. Here we have to create a DB set and we will call this as product. We have to add a using statement, so you'll press Ctrl dot using mango.services.productapi.models, and then what will be the name that we want inside our database. Let's say we want to create a table with the name of products, so we will call that right here as the property name. Once you add this, you need to add migration. So we will go to Package Manager console here. And then we have to be careful about few things. First thing is inside the Package Manager console, the default project must be services.productapi and not the web project. If it is web project, make sure to change that to product API. Next thing is the startup project should be set to the product API. So both of these must match. If the startup project is set to mango.web and if you try to add a migration, that won't work. Now I hope you are familiar with what is a migration and why we add them. If you are not, then I would highly recommend taking my free course on ASP.NET Core. That being said, we will set the startup project to product API and we will add a migration. We will give this a meaningful name. I'll call this add product model to DB. Great, you can see it added a new folder migration, and in there we have the migrations. The first thing that you see, it is creating a products table with the column of product ID where it is an identity column and it is also a primary key. It has other columns, name, price, description, category name, and image URL. This looks good. If you want to push these things to database, we need the command update database. Perfect, it displays it is done. If we go back to our SQL Server and if we refresh the list of database, now we have the Mango Product API. In there we have the table for products with all of the columns that we want. So great. We configured our database, we created a table inside that to hold all of the products. In the next video, let's perform CRUD operations on the product model.